This video was brought to you by Brilliant. Today, Moldova's EU referendum is on a knife edge. Cuba grapples with a desperate energy crisis, and Elon Musk's election giveaways spark legality concerns. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Monday the 21st of October, 2024. In a knife-edge vote, around 50.1% voted yes in Moldova's pivotal referendum on joining the EU. 30 years after independence, yesterday's referendum on joining the EU, spearheaded by pro-Western incumbent President Maia Sandu, was a key test for Moldova to choose between pushing forward with EU membership or keeping close ties with Russia. Along with the EU referendum, Moldovans also went to the polls yesterday to vote in the country's presidential elections. However, the election campaign was marred by allegations of Russian vote buying and foreign interference. Nevertheless, the EU referendum had still widely been expected to pass in the country of 2.6 million. However, as counting began, it became clear that the result would be incredibly tight. Initially, votes opposing EU integration were ahead of the pro-EU votes. But according to official figures, as of Monday morning, and with 98.3% of the ballots counted, 49.9% of voters voted against joining the EU, while just over 50% voted in support of EU membership. So the yes vote is currently winning by a few thousand votes, with just over 1% of the vote left to count, as of the time of writing. Speaking at an emergency press conference as the vote count passed 90%, President Sandu said that criminal groups, together with foreign forces, tried to buy the votes of 300,000 Moldovan voters, calling it an unprecedented assault on democracy. But the Kremlin has denied any involvement in alleged vote buying. As well as voting to change the constitution in favour of EU membership, Moldovans also voted in the country's presidential elections, in which President Sandu topped the first round vote by a much lower margin than expected. She received 42%, while her opposition challenger, former Prosecutor General Alexander Stoyanoglu, backed by the pro-Russian Socialist Party, received 26.2%, a result that was considerably higher than expected. At Sandu's election headquarters last night, the mood was described as rather subdued, as the results of the vote so far were clearly not what they'd hoped for. A runoff will now be held on November 3rd, as neither candidate crossed the 50% threshold required for an outright victory. If the eliminated candidates throw their support behind Stoyanoglu ahead of the second round, Sandu could run the real risk of not being re-elected. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Icarus94, then consider joining the TLDR Daily membership program for just $1.99. Now let's move to Cuba, where the country's electrical grid collapsed once again on Sunday, the fourth such failure in 48 hours. Cuba's national electrical grid first crashed around midday on Friday, after the island's largest power plant shut down, leaving around 10 million people in the dark and sowing chaos on Cuban streets. Since then, the grid has collapsed 3 more times, sparking small protests, as the island spent its third night in the dark as it was preparing for Tropical Storm Oscar, which is expected to cross Cuba today. The government said that power is expected to be restored to most of the country by Monday evening, and the president warned that there will be no room for unrest. The country's energy minister claimed on Sunday that while the blackouts were a disturbance for Cuban citizens, most Cubans understood and supported government efforts to restore power. Still, in the summer of 2021, the blackouts sparked unprecedented protests in what was a rare challenge to the popular government. Next up, billionaire Elon Musk is ramping up efforts to use his substantial wealth to help swing the US presidential election in Donald Trump's favor. Musk has now pledged to give away $1 million every day until the election to registered voters in swing states that sign his Political Action Committee's petition, which calls to protect the First and Second Amendments' rights to speech and bear arms. Musk handed over a $1 million check to a man at a rally on Saturday and another to a woman on Sunday. Musk's Political Action Committee, or PAC, has also offered $100 to each registered Pennsylvania voter who signs their petition, and $100 for referring registered Pennsylvania voters to sign. As well as aiming to get people registered to vote, another possible benefit of the petition is that it gathers voter details, which could then be used with the Get Out to Vote effort. However, concerns have been raised about the legality of Musk's giveaways. After all, it's a federal crime to pay people with the intention of inducing or rewarding them to cast a vote or to get registered, according to the Justice Department. Musk's giveaway is therefore problematic because it requires registration as a prerequisite to become eligible for the $1 million check. The Associated Press quotes one campaign finance lawyer as saying that there would be few doubts about the legality if every Pennsylvania-based petition signer were eligible, but conditioning the payments on registration arguably violates the law. Next up, King Charles is currently on a visit to Australia, but while there he's faced both celebrations and protests at his role as Australia's head of state. In the capital of Canberra, having just given a speech to the Australian Parliament, Charles was heckled by Independent Senator Lydia Thorpe, an Aboriginal Australian who accused the monarch of genocide and said, "This is not your land. You are not my king."
You committed genocide against our people. Give us our land back. Give us what you stole from us. Our bones, our skulls, our babies, our people. You destroyed our land. Give us a treaty. We want a treaty in this country. You are a genocider. This is not your land. This is not your land. You are not my king. You are not our king.
Thorpe had released a statement earlier saying that Australia should become a republic and establish a treaty with the First Nation peoples as part of this process. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who favours becoming a republic but says that a vote won't be called anytime soon, praised King Charles for his engagement on issues like climate change and said that it was a great honour to lead the Australian delegation at the coronation. Albanese also said of Charles, "You have shown great respect for Australians, even during times where we've debated the future of our own constitutional agreements and the nature of our relationship with the Crown," but added, "Nothing stands still." Charles is actually the first reigning British king to visit Australia, and its first visit by a British monarch since his mother visited in 2011. Charles and his wife, Queen Camilla, went to a church service in Sydney and later a war memorial in Canberra, where they met with members of the public who had gathered to see them. On Wednesday, Charles will travel to Samoa and will open the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting there. And finally, in some uplifting news, the World Health Organization has certified Egypt as being malaria-free, following a nearly 100-year effort by Egypt to end the disease. The WHO's Director General said that malaria is as old as Egyptian civilization itself, but the disease that plagued pharaohs now belongs to its history and not its future. Egypt is now the third country in the WHO's Eastern Mediterranean region to be certified free of malaria, a disease that kills at least 600,000 people every year, nearly all of them in Africa. Egypt's Deputy Prime Minister said we must now work tirelessly and vigilantly to sustain our achievement through maintaining the highest standards for surveillance, diagnosis and treatment, integrated vector management, and sustaining our effective and rapid response to imported cases. Now, what's something that the TLDR audience have in common? Well, they're willing to learn something new every day. And while our videos are a pretty good start, a lot of the stuff we talk about can seem pretty complicated, especially when we dive into analytics and detailed data. Luckily, there's a fun and easy way to learn more, which doesn't cost thousands of dollars or take years of schooling. That's because Brilliant is the best way to learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI. Each lesson is filled with hands-on problem solving, broken down into accessible chunks designed around your busy schedule. That means that by spending just a few minutes a day, you can accumulate new knowledge over time in an actually fun way, and you'll feel the satisfaction that comes with bettering yourself and staying ahead. For instance, perhaps you promised yourself that this year you'll learn more programming skills, but you've just not had enough time, and the year's now coming to an end. Brilliant's growing number of programming courses are a great way to build the foundations and learn real-world applications with courses on Python, essential coding elements like loops and variables, and even developing your mind to think like a programmer. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/TLDR or scan the QR code on screen. Or you can just click the link in the description. That way you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thanks for your support, and thanks for watching TLDR.